Hello, everyone. Yeah, I know my audio kind of stinks, and I don't know how to fix it, so I'm just going to wing it. I apologize for the poor quality, but hopefully I'll get better at this stuff as I go along. My name is Andy Masterson, and last year I started making custom action figures of some of my favorite YouTube creators. And the response has been a little overwhelming. But as a result, I've made some great friends, and many of them have expressed an interest in getting into action figure collecting after seeing some of these things. And while there's some great shows out there like Hot Toys and Fully Articulated with Az and Robert Meyer Burnett, Justin's Collection and Jetta Patrol, and these guys do a great job at showcasing some of the new products that are out there and really giving people a glimpse of some of the really cool stuff that's being produced out there. I wanted to take a little bit of a different approach and sort of introduce people into what modern six-scale collecting is. I was born in the late 60s, so I'm kind of old, and I was also the youngest of four boys, which meant that not only did I have my toys to play with, but I got a lot of my brother's hand-me-downs, and I had a huge, huge setup. Back then, in the 70s, we didn't have any VCRs or anything yet. Some of them existed, we just didn't have enough money in my house to buy one. And so if you wanted to see a movie, you saw it in the theaters. Occasionally they would make their way to TV. If you were watching your TV shows, you had to catch them when they aired or maybe possibly catch a rerun. There was no rewatching of things. My primary source of entertainment was comic books. I started collecting comic books when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And we had a huge collection. My one brother and I, we would go to the local farm market where we could buy all the comic books with half the cover ripped off, and they were sold for like 11 for $1. So for $5, my dad gave each of us $5, and we came home with about 200 comic books. And so each of us having 100, we would swap off and read them back and forth, and you would read them and reread them and reread them until they're practically falling apart. And as a result, we developed this huge love of these characters. And so many people of my generation have this affection for these things because, we spent so much time with them. It wasn't like, we had so many different options. I mean, TVs we only had 7 channels on there. So you had three UHF and the main 3 channels, and we had PBS that you rarely watched if you're past the Sesame Street age. As a teenager, I foolishly gave up all my toys and figured that it's time for me to kind of grow up, and gave away all my Star Wars toys and all my Micronauts and all my Mego superheroes. Yeah, dumb mistake. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. So it was in the early 90s. I had a friend of mine, and I never knew he was an action figure collector. We would talk about comic books, we would talk about movies and things, but I had no idea that there was such a thing as an adult action figure collector. Till one day he says to me, you feel like taking a ride? So we hop on motorcycles and we go all the way up to Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, where there's a Star Trek convention. My buddy Cat, he's a black guy who plays bass in a heavy metal band, real long hair and biker jacket, decked out all in black. I got a biker jacket on and jeans and black cowboy boots because I had a horse back then. And we go in there, my hair's down the middle of my back, and everybody dressed as Klingons are looking at us like we're the weirdos. So he got this action figure autographed by Persis Kambala. And that started me thinking that, hey, I can start collecting some of these things too. And the first things I got were the Toy Biz X-Men figures. I sort of had them in push pins, hanging all around my wall and inside the packaging in my bedroom. And then when my son was born, I started picking up some action figures. The first thing I got was a 6-scale, 12-inch Hasbro Obi-Wan Kenobi figure from The Phantom Menace. And he was about 2 months old when I found it. And his mother says, you don't even know if he's going to like Star Wars. I said, oh, he's going to like Star Wars. And ironically, that became his favorite figure, and to this day, Obi-Wan is still his favorite character. So I started, collecting for him when he got older to play with them. So I picked up a lot of these figures, many of them when they were on clearance. And that's what I'm going to use to give you an illustration about like what is the typical thing that people think about when they think of an action figure compared to the modern day equivalent. So this is Hasbro's Qui-Gon Jinn action figure. This was released in 1999 to coincide with The Phantom Menace. And it has a passing resemblance to Liam Neeson. The rooted hair was a noble attempt, but and it looked pretty good in the packaging, but this is sort of what happens when you give this to a 5-year-old and he fights Darth Maul over and over again. So his midsection wasn't the only casualty. Yeah, but you can see the body itself. Look, you can hear the ratcheting inside the arms. Not a whole lot of posability. The fabric is sort of, thick and clunky. It doesn't really lay naturally and looks kind of poofy. The belt and the boots are made out of a soft rubber. The boots are actually interchangeable. They're not even for a left or right foot. But all in all, it's pretty cool for a kid to have. So, of course, I started collecting everything for him, everything that I could find. Spent a lot of money on eBay. In 2000, Hasbro came out with their first attempt at appealing towards the more adult collectors. This one came out as a 2-pack with a Padme figure. This was the Defense of Naboo. You can see the face looks a little bit more realistic. Ironically, the resemblance to Liam Neeson was better on the cheaper one. The other one was about $20, and this came in a 2-pack for $80. So this figure was about $40. I managed to pick this thing up on eBay several years later because I hadn't even known it existed. Pretty cool. Like, the most impressive thing about it is the tailoring of the clothes. It's a much thinner fabric. The pants actually have more of like a tweed look to them. The boots are still like interchangeable. They're not really for left and right, and still a very toy-like body. You can see the proportions. The arms don't actually come down quite to where they should, but overall, it's a pretty cool figure to have. I don't know that I actually ever gave this to my son to play with because spent a lot of money on it. I really didn't want him to ruin it. Okay. So in 2005. Hasbro wasn't really selling a whole lot of 6-scale figures. I guess I should explain the whole concept of 6-scale. Most people look at these and will say often a 12-inch figure, but that's not exactly accurate. What that means is a figure of a grown man was 12 inches tall. So that meant 12 inches equals 6 feet. So that equates to every 2 inches is 1 foot. This one is actually a little bit overscaled. This is 13 3/4 inches tall. And you compare that to the 12-inch figure of Qui-Gon. Now, Liam Neeson's a big guy, but he would be almost 7 foot tall. It's a little bit taller than he's supposed to be. Like that. Okay, so then in 2006, Sideshow Collectibles subcontracted the 6-scale license from Hasbro. And this was their version of Qui-Gon. And I'm showing the Qui-Gon figures because this is what I have examples of the same character. You can see the face sculpture. Looks a lot like Liam Neeson. But still, it's hand sculpted, and it's very detailed. What really excels here is the fabric, which is similar to the deluxe Hasbro version, but there's actually some weathering that goes on with it, so it looks very authentic to the movie. The boots are much more detailed. The belt is actually leather with some accessories that attach onto it. These are all removable. The boots are actually for a left and right foot. They are a thick and heavy plastic, which does limit the articulation, the figure. These figures here are much better articulated. You can get a very wide range of motion out of them. And for the most part, they can hold a pose pretty well in anything that you set them up for. There were several hands that came with it, a lightsaber, a poncho. And as a high-end collector, this is sort of a dream come true. Now, this figure back then retailed for about $50, which I thought was outrageous at the time, but I talked myself into it. Okay, that brings us up into current day. So, arguably right now, Hot Toys is the preeminent 6-scale figure company. They make the Cadillac, if you will, or the Ferrari of 6-scale action figure. You can see here with their version of Qui-Gon. Look at the detail in that face. It's the costume. Again, the costume isn't too much of an improvement over the Sideshow one. It's about equivalent, I would say. I think that they do a better job on the belt. They use a little bit of a thinner material. They get better detail. And the accessories are actually a little bit smaller. The boots are really great because it's a two-piece boot. This is a softer material here, and this actually allows for ankle articulation. This figure here has 30 points of articulation, and the Hot Toys body is sort of like an industry standard now of articulation, so you can put these things into very realistic, very, very natural posing positions. When you see this sitting on a shelf, it looks incredibly lifelike and realistic. I've actually shown pictures of some of the sculptures that Hot Toys has done of various actors, and many people were shocked to find out that it wasn't actually the actor. Unfortunately, with the upgrade comes an upgraded price. This sold for $235. The thing to remember about this is these are not toys. I'm sure there's somebody out there who gave this to a kid to play with. It should probably be smacked because it's a work of art and it shouldn't be demolished like that. But an amazing figure, and it's a collectible. Hot Toys figures don't lose their value. It's next to impossible to be able to find a secondhand Hot Toys figure that's even selling for original retail price. Most of them go up significantly in value. What I'm trying to focus on with this channel is to show people how you don't have to necessarily spend a fortune to get one of these. Like I've created many of my own Kit Basher custom action figures. Like this is a custom / Kit Bash Punisher figure of John Bernthal. I purchased the head separately. I think it's a third party. And everything else I bought. I made the armor myself. I made the vest, the tactical vest. But I bought the military sweater and the pants and the combat boots and the rifle. But this is just an example of some of the things you can do with a little bit of creativity. I also am going to be focusing on doing things like the Diorama Backgrounds and showing you how you can do those things on more of a budget, so you're not putting yourself into the poorhouse and, God forbid, having to sell off your action figures to pay the mortgage. But that should give you an idea about like what modern 6-scale collecting is from where it's gone. So when somebody sees these and they look at it as just it's an action figure that a kid would play with, and that's not quite true. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and leave any comments of anything that you'd like to see me do in the future. I am going to be incorporating a lot of the things a lot of the customization techniques that I've done over the years, including molding, casting, and the creation of diorama bases. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.